Welcome to Casual Tuesdays here at the Cohn Zone. I'm at my dad. I'm in the original Cohn Zone, my dad's office. He's upstairs, not going downstairs yet, but he's graduated from the walker to the cane. He's making strides every day, and he's sitting down casually, not standing up in pain as he was before he missed a month. So I'm still catching him back up on Niner news, and the news this week is coming from New England. No one out here could figure out what was going on with Jimmy Garoppolo. New England seems to know. The reports from all of the reputable guys out there is that Jimmy Garoppolo is plan A for the Patriots, and they don't really have a firm plan B. They want him. So they're willing to give up, these guys think, a second-round pick this year, number 46. The Niners pick 43. My initial reaction is that they should take that. The only issue is when. What do you think?
I agree. I would run across the country to make that deal. He costs too much. He's not good enough. Joe Montana seemed to indicate that to you last week. Make the deal and move on. Yes. And you know what? Belichick is very smart. He feels he can get something out of Jimmy. Maybe he can. My guess is he can't. But maybe he can. This is a deal. If these reports are accurate, and Iggy, we don't know.
We don't.
But if these reports are accurate and the Niners don't make this deal, it is a condemnation of the 49ers.
Oh, yeah. And, I think if the Patriots seriously are offering a second-round pick, I believe the Niners will do the right thing and trade him back there. It's just the only issue is when. Do you hold on to Jimmy Garoppolo until after you've drafted whatever replacement you want so that teams don't know what you're going to do in the draft? It seems to me if you wait to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, some bad things could happen. One, you're not freeing up any cap space. You're going to miss out on the free agents you might like to get, and you might lose some free agents because you're holding on to this guy an extra month or two. Also, if you keep Jimmy Garoppolo and trade a quarterback, wouldn't the Patriots offer then go down? It's like, well, we know you got someone. Jimmy is worth way less to you. Doesn't the offer go down at that point? I think.
I agree it does. And my advice, not that anyone ever listens, but my advice is trade him the first second you can trade him.
That's the way I think.
A minute, do it a second.
And so these things can be made official on March 17th. They can be made unofficial on March 15th at any time, really. I think in a week, in 8 days, that's when free agency officially starts. He should be on the Patriots.
I agree. And I want to say something else. If the Niners do this, if this comes to fruition, and again, we're not in New England, we don't really know these writers, so we're speculating. If the Niners do this, it's really an important message to fans. You know what? You may like Jimmy. Trust us. We can do better.
Yes.
We can do better.
Yeah. You trust Kyle Shanahan, right?
We are in the process of doing better. I think it's a very important message. And it's, again, the message that Joe Montana said they should make.
Yes, absolutely. I think they should follow Joe Montana's advice, trade Jimmy Garoppolo in 8 days, and then move on from there. Don't wait until the draft, because if you draft the quarterback and then trade Jimmy Garoppolo, I would think the Patriots offers goes down.
Also, right there. If you draft a quarterback, maybe they don't even trade Jimmy Garoppolo. Maybe they have the misconception that Jimmy would be the starter and they develop a guy behind him. You don't want that.
No.
You don't want that. You want to move on.
Yeah. Move on now and get the salary cap space now, about $25 million, and don't lose out on people that you could get.
Yes.
So what's interesting about these reports is Greg Bedard was one of the guys, and he's like the Matt Mayoko of New England. He's extremely...
How does he spell his name?
Bedard. Bedard. Okay. He's telling about the Patriots and that this is plan A for them. And he was saying, now it's true, John Lynch recently went on a podcast and said that he, without hesitation, he believes Jimmy Garoppolo will be the week 1 starter for the 49ers. He says, listen, the perception that I get around the league is that John Lynch has no power in that organization. And it's not just that he has no power. It's that Kyle Shanahan may actually keep him in the dark on really serious matters like this. So when John Lynch is saying, yeah, I believe it, he may have as much of an insight into Kyle Shanahan's plan as you or me, which I thought was very interesting. I mean, even out here, we're not that cynical about John Lynch. If that's the perception about him around the league, wow.
Iggy, Bedard is someone has credibility,
Yes, he's been around a long time. Extremely credible.
and you assume he has sources in the league.
A ton.
Which,
League
yeah.
wide.
So, okay, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and say he's accurate on this. What a sad state of affairs. And I want to say in a couple of ways, it's a very sad state of affairs for the 49ers that they would have a general manager with no power. But what about John Lynch? Again, I knew him as a young man. I don't know him now. He strikes me as a dynamic, intelligent guy who has the world in his fist.
Yes.
Why would he accept that? Why wouldn't he go to another team or go back to broadcasting or whatever? Why would he accept being diminished publicly like that and being diminished in the organization? I look at it from Lynch's point of view. What a sad, sad thing.
Absolutely. It's a really sad. He doesn't need to do this. He's a Hall of Fame player. He was an excellent announcer. He has a great life that's back in San Diego. I don't think his family's up here with him. He's really, it's like a sacrifice to come up and prove himself again. And he's up here doing what? I mean, he can't take credit for anything, apparently. And they're using him as like what? Just to throw people off the scent. Like, let John Lynch go out and talk and say things, and it'll just confuse people. That's really bleak.
And the idea that Shanahan may not even share his plans with him. I mean, if that's the case, again, I don't know. So I'm not talking about this as fact. I'm talking about this as a report. But if Shanahan doesn't share with him, what does that say about Shanahan? What does it say about the kind of person he is? I mean, it makes him seem small-minded.
Paranoid.
If it's true, small-minded, mean-spirited.
What I initially thought of was, it's like he's Michael Corleone, and the only person he trusts is Don Corleone, his dad. The only person he might tell his inner secrets are his dad and Tom Hagen. Like, John Lynch is basically Tom Hagen. Like, you're the front man for the organization, but when times get tough, I just don't trust you because you're not a Sicilian. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're out of wartime constantly. You're out, Tom. But he just wasn't Sicilian. Sorry, I can't trust you. Yeah. And I just feel like that's the thing with John Lynch.
He's not Shanahan.
You're not a Shanahan. You're not in the family. Yeah. You're an adopted guy. You're a good face of the organization. You make us look legit, but you're not in the inner sanctum. Sorry.
You're out, John.
You're out, John. That's the way I look at it. Like, Kyle is Michael Corleone, ruthless, and his dad is Mike. Don Corleone is Mike. I think he's basically the head. He's the GM and the head scout for the 49ers, Kyle and Mike. And John Lynch is there to make it look legit. You know, he's the money launderer.
He's the consigliere.
He's the consigliere. Yeah, he's the guy with the law degree. Anyway, that's how I see it. John, you don't need to be Tom Hagen.
And he only has one client.
He only has one client. That's right. John, you don't need to be Tom Hagen. Come on.
No, John. Call me up. We'll talk. I have a certain amount of wisdom.
You don't want, one of these days you're going to end up cutting off a horse's head and putting it in someone's. You don't want to end up that way because Tom Hagen had to do some tough stuff. John.
Because right now, if you're not cutting off a horse's head, you're a horse's, and I'm not going to say the next word.
Okay, so now everyone pretty much across the country accepts that Jimmy's probably gone soon, and what John Lynch said has no bearing on reality.
Right.
So people are starting to connect the dots. Okay, Jimmy's going back to New England. Who are the Niners going to get? And a lot of people, like yesterday, Peter King, Chris Sims, Mike Lombardi, said Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold makes so much sense. He's a great fit for the 49ers. He was held back by Adam Gase and the lack of weapons on the Jets, and the Jets are going to do the Niners. The Jets and Niners are a perfect trade partners because, there's Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh, and they know each other, and it's just perfect. What do you think of this?
The Niners getting Sam Darnold. Hold on. I'm ill, but hold on.
Yeah, exactly.
It makes me want to puke, Iggy.
Yeah.
And also, how did all these people all get the same scoop in the same day?
Yeah.
How did that work?
It was one of two things. One, the Niners floated this because they want people to think this. Or people are just wrong. And I'm going to go with two because I don't want to be super cynical. I'm going to go with 2. People are just wrong. It's obvious. Like, well, you got Kyle Shanahan here. You got Robert Saleh here. They're friends. And everyone's projecting the Jets to take Zach. Everyone loves this Zach Wilson kid from BYU. He's going to go number 2 to the Jets and fix all their problems. And then the Jets are going to have to trade Sam Darnold somewhere. Why not help out their friend in San Francisco? Why not do that? Well,
okay.
What people don't realize, well, what do you think of that?
Well, first of all, I don't think Saleh and Shanahan are friends.
Yeah, I mean, they do business together.
He never called him Robert. He always called him Saleh.
True.
I don't think they're friends. Plus, what it means is that the Niners would be taking the Jets' leavings.
Why would they do that?
The Jets?
Yeah, why would they do that?
Why would they do that? So he stinks. We got a better guy we drafted. You take him like we took your crummy offensive line coach.
Yeah, and I think it's also like people think that Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh could engineer this trade. Kyle Shanahan could do whatever he wants on the Niners. Robert Saleh doesn't have that kind of setup on the Jets. He got hired by a general manager who has a lot of strength and power in that organization. Kyle hired John. So John is at Kyle's whim, mercy. Saleh has to do what Joe Douglas wants to do. Joe Douglas has the vision and power in that organization, and Joe Douglas isn't going to just send Sam Darnold to the Niners for a 5th-round pick to make Kyle Shanahan look good. It'll be for a 2nd-round pick, and that's a lot for a stiff.
Iggy, evaluate Sam Darnold for me.
Okay, from what I see with Sam Darnold is he's a really good athlete. He's good at, like, when the play breaks down, he can scramble around and throw, like, rolling left, rolling right, all the kind of the difficult stuff. But the reason the play is always breaking down for him is he can't find an open receiver to save his life. And you can't really see it on – it's the kind of thing you can't see on television. You don't see the receivers when they run. But you get this coach's tape, and you can put it in slow motion, and you can see all the receivers, and you just pause it when the quarterback gets to the very top of his drop and he's ready to throw, and you look like, oh, that guy's open, that guy's open. Where are you looking, Sam? And it's like you can go through a game, and he'll execute a play maybe correctly maybe 5 times out of 45. But okay, so hold on. But I don't want to crush him because he's 23 years old, and that was probably what Steve Young looked like to an extent in Tampa Bay at that point. But the deal with Sam Darnold is maybe he has some upside. Maybe there's something there. Is he way better than Josh Rosen? You already have Josh Rosen. They were in the same draft class. Darnold was the 3rd pick. Rosen was the 10th pick. Is Darnold light years better than the guy you already have on your team? Or would you just be trading a 2nd-round pick for a guy who's slightly better than Josh Rosen or better than Josh Rosen?
But Iggy, is he better than Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, Jimmy's history. Forget Jimmy.
Jimmy's history.
Jimmy's history. The question is he even better than Rosen? And I don't think he's enough better to trade a 2nd-round pick for some guy who's had 3 miserable years in the league, missed time with like mono and he lost a toenail. He missed games because of a toenail injury. Dad, seriously, I don't know. And he went to USC.
Oh well, I want to say another thing. Adam Gase is a horrible head coach.
Yes,
he's a pretty good offensive coordinator.
There's many worse guys than him.
Even against the Niners, you could see some of his plays were very clever.
Yes.
So I'm not sure Adam Gase held him back.
When I watched the coach's tape in slow motion, and I can see open receivers routinely that Sam Darnold just isn't looking at. And that's on him. I think there's a physical ability to either sense where the opening is going to be or see it. And what I've talked to about coaches is you're not supposed to just drop back and look at a receiver. You're supposed to drop back and look at the defense first. And then after that split-second snapshot, have a pretty good sense of where you're going to have to go with the ball. Some guys are better at it than others. Some guys drop back and look utterly confused. He's one of them. Jimmy's one of them. And that's what Kaepernick, yes, he's one of them. And that's what Kyle has no patience for because in his perspective, his plays always work. He just needs a guy who knows where to go with the ball at the right time. And that ain't Sam Darnold on his best day. So
look, Iggy, as far as this, we're going to call it a rumor. It's not a report. It's a rumor about Sam Darnold. You and I agree, thumbs down on this Darnold guy.
Yeah.
Thumbs down.
Thumbs down. Real quick, we got a question from Michael Jolly. Assuming McShay is correct and quarterbacks go 1 through 4, could we potentially trade 12 and Jimmy to New England for 15 and a 2022 first rounder? Take Mond at 15. Look, let me think about that. We're going to have a whole quarterback section where we talk about the realistic scenarios the Niners can pull off in the draft, not what they should do or what they can actually pull off. So I'm going to address what I think they're going to do. This is very clever, but I hadn't considered this scenario. Let me hit you with mine in like 20 minutes. Thank you, Michael, for the donation. All right, let's move on. So if it ain't Sam Darnold, and it really shouldn't be Sam Darnold, what do the Niners do after they trade Jimmy Garoppolo, presumably in 8 days? What is the move? They would need to draft a quarterback, of course, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But they would also need a bridge quarterback just in case. And there were reports that they were interested in Teddy Bridgewater. He'd be okay.
No way.
Yeah, no.
Not good enough. No way.
He's an okay quarterback, but you're trading probably a mid-round pick and paying him $17 million a year, and he's had injury issues too, and he just lost a bunch of games last year, and what are you really accomplishing with that? I think the better move would be to just sign a guy because you're not giving up a draft pick and it'll be cheaper. So which quarterbacks are free agents? Well, you got Andy Dalton, who's been relentlessly mediocre his whole life. You got Cam Newton. You got Ryan Fitzpatrick, who's pretty old. And then the guy I keep coming back to, we've talked about before, Alex Smith. It seems like the perfect bridge quarterback for a lot of reasons. What do you think?
Iggy, I think it would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. And let me give you some reasons. You have better reasons. First of all, you can say that he mentored 2 quarterbacks.
He did.
Kaepernick, walking around with his earphones and really not listening to anybody, and Mahomes. Not bad. Yes. He doesn't have the kind of ego where he would not talk to a guy or not explain things to a guy.
Generous.
Iggy, I got someone at the door. Mom's, hold on, guys. I know this is live.
Oh, take your time. Take your time. It's all right. I can handle it. Go check out the door. I'll talk. All right. Here, I'll do this one. See, give him some time. All right. So I'm gonna kill time right here. Hold on. Let me take this banner off my face, and I'll interact with you guys. All right. What are you guys talking about? What's going on in the comment section here? Do the Niners brass really want to tip their hand by getting rid of Jimmy this early or before the draft? Yeah, that's the counter example. But if they, I think everyone knows the Niners are going to draft a quarterback. If they don't trade for Sam Darnold, if they don't trade for Sam Darnold soon, everyone knows the Niners are going to draft a quarterback. Who are you kidding? I think the problem is if your deal is with the Patriots, the one team that wants Jimmy Garoppolo is the Patriots. That's the only team. And you got the second round pick on the table now. They're willing to give you the second round pick now. Waiting doesn't make that offer go up. It's not going to become a first round pick this year. And waiting, say they take Kellen Mond at 12 or at 15, or they take Mac Jones at 7, or they take Kyle Trask at 43. Well, then the Patriots say, now we know that you can't even lie and say that Jimmy Garoppolo is coming back or that you want Jimmy Garoppolo. You have your next quarterback. You're paying too much for his bridge. You got to get rid of him. Now we're going to offer a 3. So I think the more I think about it, the more I think the Niners got to do this now, create the cap space. And now here's my dad. Hold on.
Hello. Let me explain what happened.
Okay.
We have a guy, a builder, Soren, who Iggy knows, who's a lovely guy, and he's supposed to come and replace some tiles in our kitchen today. But that wasn't Soren. That was John, the UPS driver.
Oh, yeah.
He dropped off 3 packages, and he told me he's reading my book and he loves it. So I love him. The UPS driver bought my book. And I said I'd sign it for him, but he said he wants to finish it first. So I'm back.
Okay.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Alex Smith and why he's the perfect bridge quarterback. I mean, he mentored Mahomes, mentored Colin Kaepernick. And if you remember, those 2 young guys had 2 of the best starts of their career after sitting for a season of any quarterbacks in the last 10 years. They were on fire at first, and they both credited Alex Smith for getting them up to speed so well. He's done it multiple times, and while he's mentoring, he wins.
I was going to say, Alex Smith is a winner. Now, he's not a Super Bowl winner, I don't think, but I don't know, on the right team, he might be.
He was more successful last year than Jimmy Garoppolo was here.
Yeah.
He was 5-1 on Washington last year. Jimmy Garoppolo was like 3-3.
Okay. The other thing is, one of the things I always liked about Alex, Iggy, when he gets to the line of scrimmage, it's like
he's a genius.
Hunt.
Yes.
You agree?
Oh yeah, that's part of the reason. That's part of what he gives to the young quarterbacks. Mentally, he's as good as any quarterback. He's like Brady. He's like Peyton Manning. He understands what's happening as well as they do. He's not as gifted. He didn't have the arm those guys have. He's not as aggressive as they are. He's not as good as them, but he is as smart, and that's part of what he can give to a young, talented quarterback who has more physical gifts than him. Well, I'll also show you how to read the game. It's great at it.
Before the play even starts.
That's right.
He was brilliant at the line of scrimmage. And I want to say one other thing, because I'm not a football scout. I'm a journalist. What a story.
Oh,
Iggy,
yeah.
What a story. Alex Smith comes back. Can you imagine? I mean, every newspaper would probably have an Alex Smith section.
Yes.
He would, as opposed to a grump like Kaepernick before he got famous, Alex Smith would sit down for interviews. He'd do one-on-ones.
Oh,
if there was a thing anymore like a one-on-one.
The thing that I liked about him was he was so an anti-celebrity. He never wanted to be famous, ever, and never acted like he was famous.
He's a wonderful guy.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful guy. And Iggy, a B plus quarterback.
Yeah, but I mean, whatever he is, he's a quarterback who wins about 3/4 of his games in the regular season.
Yeah.
He's never done anything really in the playoffs. But you're not asking him to. You're asking him to start 8 games. Start 8 games if you have to, because ideally this quarterback will even beat you out in training camp. But if he doesn't and he needs a little time, start. And if you can't make it a full season, great, because this guy needs to play anyway. Mentor him. That's fine. You're not asking him to play 2 seasons or 16 games. Just mentor the first round pick or the second round pick. I think he'd be perfect for it. And what a perfect story narrative it would be to have him come back. I just wonder if he wants to.
Yeah. And part of mentoring, I want to be very specific. Mentoring happens in the quarterback meetings.
Yes.
The quarterbacks sit with it's very interesting. It's like school. They sit in a little room and there's a projector or however they do it on screens now on their computers, and they go through stuff. And if they have 3 quarterbacks, like last year, the 3 of them were sitting in the room and going over stuff. Now, you remember that O'Sullivan guy?
JT.
Yeah, Alex once.
He's trying to make a comeback. He's trying to make a comeback on YouTube. Let's talk about it. JT.
Okay. Maybe this is wrong, but I thought Alex once said that he had a question in a meeting, and Alex was always telling O'Sullivan, but O'Sullivan knew something he didn't, and he wouldn't tell Alex. That's right. And Alex, as far as I remember it could be apocryphal, but I thought I heard it. Maybe Alex told me.
I remember this story when I was a kid. You told me that.
Yeah.
Because the thing was it was during that when I think probably Alex Smith was like 23, and he'd had a different coordinator every year. Remember that time? It was part of the reason he was so bad. That year it was Mike Martz. And JT O'Sullivan brought in Martz because he'd been with him in Detroit or something like that. Knew his scheme and said he was going to be as good as Kurt Warner or something like that. So he had a leg up on Alex Smith and wouldn't help Alex. That's not what Alex is like.
Oh, no. He's the exact opposite. He's a generous, bright person.
Yeah, that's really petty, JT.
So I want to come back to, from the point of view of a journalist and a story. Again, you want to please fans.
Yeah.
You want to please fans. Get rid of Jimmy. Show them what your direction is. Do it right away. Bring in Alex Smith. It's a savvy move, and it would warm the hearts of your fans. There is no fan that doesn't like double negative, that doesn't like Alex Smith. Now, for me, the one drawback he has as a quarterback that it troubles me, sometimes he doesn't throw the ball when he should.
Yeah, but Dad, he's gotten a lot better at that because he spent a lot of time with Andy Reid, and he had Patrick Mahomes behind him, pushing him. By the time that he finally got replaced, his final year in Kansas City, he led the NFL in quarterback rating, led the entire league, and he was throwing deep to Tyreek Hill. He's actually come a long way since what he was 10 years ago. He's more aggressive. He's a better quarterback, and he consistently wins. The thing with him is he has this surgically constructed leg, and it just kind of gave out on him last year. Like it called it a calf injury. There was no necessarily any impact. It just kind of malfunctioned. So you don't know how long it's going to last, but you don't know how long Jimmy's going to last. It seems to me what this Niners offense has become, the short passing game. Well, Alex can do that. And he's a smarter quarterback before the snap than Jimmy, after the snap than Jimmy, and still more mobile than Jimmy. Still.
And a better arm.
And a better arm than Jimmy. Just better. I think he's capable. The Niners could actually win more games with Alex Smith next season than with Jimmy Garoppolo.
So, Kyle, I know you're watching because you're a big fan of the Cohn Zone. What we're saying is Alex Smith is a pretty good bridge quarterback. We would like you to be imaginative. This is Grant Cohn and Lowell Cohn would like you to be imaginative and bold.
Yes.
So, if you want to phone me later, all I'm doing in the house these days, I do these exercises to try to build up my leg so I can actually walk again without a walker or a cane. So I'm here and I can take your call.
Okay. All right. We're going to take a couple of questions real quick. This is from a Rams fan, a heckler. He says, Niners Super Bowl window closed, losing key players in depth, maybe Trent Williams, no real quarterback, Afredo GM, who can't make moves, Santa Clara Fools Golders 2021. That's a Rams fan. Thank you very much for the Rams. Do you think the Niners? Okay, yeah.
Hold on. As far as the Fredo goes,
it's not even Italian.
But we were doing Godfather.
True.
So he's staying with the metaphor.
Okay.
According to what the guy in New England said, he might be a Fredo, and it hurts my heart.
Yeah.
But I can't argue with that. Now, window closed. Is the Super Bowl window closed? He has a question mark. He's not declaring it. It's an interrogative.
Not necessarily.
So that's what you should. I'd like you to address that.
Well, we're talking about a way to reopen it right now. I think the Super Bowl window with Jimmy Garoppolo was close. I don't know if it was ever open. They came close. It's over, and they need to move on. But if they draft the right quarterback this year and sign Alex Smith, I mean, they probably won't win the Super Bowl this upcoming season, but maybe the year after that. Maybe they still have a lot of very good players on their team. Kittle's in his 20s. Bosa's in his 20s if he can come back and be what people think he is. Ayuk's young, Debo's young. They have a young core. They could reload. I don't think they're going to do it this year, Dad, but I think if they make the right moves, they could be back in position next year. Kind of like, I feel like they're a year behind the Rams. The Rams went to the Super Bowl. They were mediocre for a couple years after, and now they've reloaded and changed, and they're contenders. Maybe next year the Niners could do something similar.
But something very important the Rams did. They had a quarterback who was not good enough, and they were bold enough to get rid of him.
Yes. And the Niners have to be bold.
And the Niners need to do that too. The Rams got rid of the kid from Marin who's not good enough. Mm-hmm. And they got Matthew Stafford, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's what the Niners need to do.
That's right. That's right. Good to see Papa Cohn back. By the way, what the heck is going on with Josh Johnson? Is he practice squad 2K21? I don't know what's going on. He's like a 35-year-old journeyman backup who's from Oakland that the Niners have given like a futures contract to and brought him back. I don't know what the vision is for him. Maybe they want to have a more mobile quarterback and he's what they're envisioning, but he's been around forever. I don't know. I have no idea. You got any theories, Dad?
Yes, I think they'll cut him after training camp.
Yeah, they'll cut him after training camp. I can't body. Last one, David Velez says, what's going to happen when the new TV deals come through and the salary cap doubles? Suddenly super expensive quarterbacks will be affordable. I don't know. We'll have to see. David, I was talking to a coach today, and he was saying that the new TV deals will definitely help the owners, but they're not necessarily inclined to just spike the salary cap. They might just keep the money and have the players take the losses. So I'm not sure that the salary cap's going to go up. It's kind of in the owner's interest to keep the salary cap down, isn't it? The players want the salary cap to go up. I don't know. Real quick, would you rather go with Mond with our first pick and move up in the second? Okay, hold on. Let's talk about it now. All right, we're going to do quarterbacks now. Well, we got to do free agents first, and then we'll do – I'm going to get to the quarterbacks. Thanks for the donation. We'll get there.
If you want to do quarterbacks first, it's okay with me.
They seem to want to talk about quarterbacks.
Yeah, they're clamoring. They're clamoring.
Okay, let's talk quarterbacks. Okay, so we've said Jimmy's out, no Darnold, yes Alex Smith. So what is the quarterback? Who is going to be the heir apparent to Alex Smith? Who's going to be the guy that Alex Smith is mentoring? I know you don't really follow college football. I don't either. But I've been doing a lot of research, and I think I figured out the most realistic options, and I'll lay them out real quick, and you tell me what you think. Okay.
You're asking me to tell you what I think?
Okay, I'll lay them out, and you can listen.
I'll say good job. Attaboy.
Okay. So there's this guy, Mac Jones. He went to Alabama. He's like, how do I explain it? He's like C.J. Beathard, but good. He looks like C.J. Beathard. He's got the C.J. Beathard build. He doesn't look like an athlete at all. He looks like he doesn't lift weights. He's 6'3", doesn't move, not an athlete, but he had a phenomenal season at Alabama, played on an all-star team, but phenomenal season in Alabama. He has all the anticipation and accuracy and downfield ability that Jimmy doesn't have. When you watch him play, he always goes to the right receiver. He looks like a good quarterback and a non-athlete, like Kyle's kind of guy. And a lot of people like him. If the Niners were to get him, they'd probably have to trade up pretty far. He might be the 4th pick in the draft. If he falls down, maybe the Niners could get him at 7, and trading up, they'd have to give up a 2nd-round pick. So multiple assets to get a guy who looks like C.J. Beathard. Or C.J. Beathard plus. I'm being harsh on him. They might do that. They really might do that, because if Kyle likes C.J. Beathard enough to take him in round 3, then he just might take Mac Jones round 1. But I don't think he's going to fall to him. The other thing they could do is wait until round 2 and take a similar guy who played at Florida but is way bigger, Kyle Trask. No one really talks about him. I like him. He's 6'5", but he can't move. He's really not mobile. And in these days, it seems like you probably should be looking for a quarterback who can move a little bit if you can. Because when was the last time a Ben Roethlisberger or Peyton Manning came out of college? They don't really produce those as much anymore. And Bill was always looking for guys who could move. So
even Joe could move.
Even Joe could move. So the final guy, and I've been talking about this guy for months, our cousin, our deep throat that we talked to for years, has been telling me about this guy since during the football season. You got to watch him. You got to watch him. He plays. His name is Kellen Mond. He plays quarterback at Texas A&M. Texas A&M is not a particularly flashy offensive school. They play good defense and they run the ball. They weren't on television a lot, so the gelheads, as our cousin calls them, Mel Kiper, they don't talk about him very much. But the league actually looks at coaches' tape, and the league seems to really like him. I said this guy I think is a first-round talent. Chris Sims, who is pretty good at this, said not only is the guy a first-round talent, but the Niners would not be crazy to take him with the 12th pick. He's now in play for the Niners to take him with the 12th pick, and he's a little bit like Alex Smith or Colin Kaepernick. He can move, and you can run with him. He can throw too. He's a really good athlete. He's a hell of an athlete, and he started for 4 years in college.
Can I interject?
Yes.
Isn't Chris Sims Kyle's best friend?
Yes.
I mean, right?
Yes.
So when he says that, he may actually have some inside information. I mean, they're best friends.
That's right. Even if he doesn't have inside information, and Kyle didn't tell him, he knows how Kyle thinks. Right. He knows exactly how Kyle thinks. And they probably think quite similarly.
Yeah.
So when he says that Kellen Mond is a perfect fit for the Niners offense and the Niners would not be crazy to take him with the 12th pick, I believe that means he's in play to be taken with the 12th pick. And you know what? If you got to take him with the 12th pick, great, do it. Originally I was thinking they could get him in round 3. If you got to get him, I was talking, our cousin was saying, like, you know what? There's no realism with quarterbacks. You got to get him where you got to get him because people are desperate for him. If that's where he's got to go, if that's where you got to get him, then take him. Ideally, you trade down for him, but maybe that's not an option because the Patriots pick 14th. And if the Niners trade down to whatever, 20, who's to say the Patriots won't take him and then say, you know what? We don't want Jimmy anymore. Sorry.
Well, that's why they got to trade Jimmy fast.
That's why they got to trade Jimmy fast.
And I want to say one other thing. Of course, we're not going to tell you who our source is, but our source is brilliant about quarterbacks. Iggy?
Yeah. The legend has it is he discovered Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
Jim Harbaugh never gave him credit, but what I heard is that this guy was talking to a position coach on the Niners at the time and said, hey, so who are the Niners going to take this year? And the position coach said, well, Balky is leaning towards Christian Ponder.
Oy.
And this guy said, Ponder? Ponder has a surgically reconstructed shoulder. He has a noodle arm. He can't throw the ball. Have you scouted the kid in Reno yet? And the position coach said, no, I don't think we actually have. And our guy said, tell Harbaugh to get his ass up to Reno and scout Colin Kaepernick. And then Harbaugh said his dad gave him the tip. I don't know about that. That's what I heard. So this guy does have a pretty good track record. And the thing is, this Kellen Mond is a lot of people compare him to Colin Kaepernick. Built similarly, 4-year starters, ran the ball well, but this guy has a quick release, anticipation, field vision. He rarely commits turnovers. He's a lot like Alex Smith now. He's really good. So I'm thinking that Chris Sims is talking it up. It's something the Niners are prepared to do, and Chris Sims is putting it in people's minds. Like, don't be shocked and appalled when this guy is a first-round pick because he is that good, and it's going to happen. That's the way I look at it.
And Iggy, if they were to take him in the first round, would you applaud that?
I would, because I think he's the second best quarterback in the draft, and if you had to take him at the 12th pick, great. I think the first pick is this kid, Trevor Lawrence, who's going to go number 1. He had a phenomenal career at Clemson every year. This guy is the only other guy with a resume. He's been a starter for 4 years, hell of a player. If they get him and they have to get him at 12, great. If they can trade down and get him, amazing. But get him. Get him and let him learn behind Alex Smith. I think it would be phenomenal. Phenomenal. So let's see if it happens. Me and Chris Sims are trying to lead him in the right direction. Waruna just has one thing he'd like to say. Smith could have won a Super Bowl if Harbaugh did not refuse to start Smith after the concussion recovery. He was 6-2 in 2012. Harbaugh went with Colin while Alex was the team captain on sidelines. We'll never know how that one could have went, but I do believe that Alex Smith could have won a Super Bowl with that team if they had stuck with him. I don't know.
I'm going to say one other thing. As you know, I really like Jim Harbaugh and care for him.
Yes.
But he screwed Alex Smith.
Oh, he screwed Alex Smith. He helped Alex Smith and then screwed Alex Smith. And I would gotta feel that Alex Smith feels kind of extremely icky about the whole thing, right?
I would have to think so.
I don't know if you remember, but I think it was after 2011. He had just resurrected Alex Smith's career. It seemed like a happy family, and Alex Smith was going to be there for a long time. And he was either at the AT&T Pro-Am Golf or at the
it was at AT&T.
He was
in Pebble Beach.
Alex Smith caddied for him.
Right.
Ooh, and then he dumped him the next year.
Yeah.
It really was embarrassing. So
yeah,
he kind of dumped him. It's like, hey, I don't need you anymore. I like this guy better. Anyway, let's talk about free agency. The free agents the 49ers should get. I got 3 names.
Okay.
But it's kind of a tricky question because they have like $28 million in cap space, which is 9th most. Sounds like a lot, but they also have like 25 free agents, and they have some guys who aren't free agents that they have to extend anyway. Like, remember last year with Kittle? They had to give him an extension because he was great. Well, now they got to do that with Fred Warner. And I think that's priority number 1.
Yeah.
So he's going to end up getting 18, 19 million a year. That's the first thing they got to do. And so I'm not even talking about players on other teams yet, just Warner. 2, a lot of people want the Niners to re-sign Trent Williams. I think that's a mistake because he's going to be the highest paid offensive lineman of all time. You had him last year and the offensive line was terrible. Though I'm not sure that the best way to build an offensive line is to spend a ton of money on one of the 5 positions and have bad players at the other 4. He's great, but it just doesn't work. So I think you let him go, and instead of signing the top left tackle on the market for $24 million a year, which is quarterback money, sign the top center. Sign the top center. Center's an important position, and the Niners don't have one because Weston Richburg, they're going to have to cut him. He's injured. So they could sign like Corey Linsley, who was the All-Pro last year. He's in Green Bay. He's 30 years old. And you save $10 million a year because he's not a left tackle. Or you could even get someone, like, you don't have to get the top center, but just get an excellent center instead of spending all that money on Trent Williams and draft a guy. Or move Daniel Brunskill out to left tackle because I think he's a better offensive lineman at any position than Mike McGlinchey. They could do that.
Could he handle left tackle?
Yeah, he's played both left tackle and right tackle for the Niners. He started there in 2019, and they won. He played well. I think he's only given up 5 sacks in his entire career. He's a good player.
I love it. I love that move. Trent Williams is not committed to being a 49er. He's really, a freelancer.
Yeah, he's committed to himself, and it's fair to have a freelancer at tight end or maybe at wide receiver. But as your left tackle, Joe Staley didn't act that way. You're supposed to be the leader of a group. And if you're spending 20 quarterback money on that guy, I would expect that kind of a return, that he would provide more than just, good individual play. So that's what I would do. So that's 2. That's 2. We got Warner and a top center, whichever one the Niners can get. And then finally, thing is interesting is the Jason Veret thing. I wrote an article about him yesterday, and I keep going back and forth. What do the Niners do with Jason Veret? He missed 4 seasons. He's almost never healthy. But he was healthy last year for the most part, and he was fabulous, Dad. When he's healthy, it's hard to get a better cornerback. Like, if they let him go and sign someone else, he won't be as good. when healthy. The problem with Jason Verrett is he could tear his hamstring in training camp and you'll never see him again. But replacing him won't be easy. If you let him go, you'd want to get someone comparable. So that means you'd have to spend a first-round pick on that, and it seems like the Niners might be prepared to spend a first-round pick on a quarterback. So I was talking to our cousin, and he was saying, well, what you could do is you could just structure the contract with a lot of incentives based on playing time. We pay you. If you play 8 games, you get a bonus. If you play 12 games, you get a bonus. If you play 16 games, you get a bonus. That seems to be a really good way to handle it with Jason Verrett because he's so good, and you need to protect yourself as an organization. So an incentive-based 2 or 3 year contract should work. Those are 3 guys, but the only way the Niners can pull off these moves, which won't be cheap, is getting rid of Jimmy now. That's the kicker. You got to do that. If you keep Jimmy, you forget Corey Linsley, forget Jason Verrett. You might not even be able to keep Fred Warner. They may end up trading him the way they traded DeForest Buckner for a draft pick, something stupid like that. So I think the key to all of this, again, is where we started, getting rid of Jimmy in 8 days.
Wow. Okay, let's do this. I really didn't expect the answer you gave, but I love it, that they have to look to their own free agents first.
Yes.
Having said that, and let's pretend money's not an issue, because I'm not good at that anyway, and I'm kind of goofy-headed these days. Let's pretend that they can sign their own guys, but they have to sign, say, a bunch of free agents. Who are the top 3 that you think, money aside, let's not consider that would be good for them?
Well, the center I mentioned, the all-pro center from Green Bay, Corey Linsley, would be terrific. Another one would be they could use a safety because this Jaquiski Tartt's good, but he misses about 10 games a year. I think they need to let him go, and they could sign another guy. He was with Kyle Shanahan on the Falcons. His name is Keanu Neal. You've never heard of him, but he's a good player. That would be 2. What else could they use? Jeez. Oh, well, they could re-sign Emmanuel Sanders. He might get cut by the Saints. Deebo Samuel misses a lot of time. If he's cheap, that could be another guy because they're going to lose Kendrick Bourne. They could use a number 3 receiver. Maybe Emmanuel Sanders. How about those ones?
I love it. And the thing about everything I know about Sanders is he's a good guy. And he's an Alex Smith type. He might be useful in meetings to raise the standard, to raise the expectations. Plus, he has been a very good receiver. I'm glad we did free agents. You really came through.
Thanks. And then the final one that could be like an edge rusher because D Ford, God knows when he's ever going to play again.
They got to get rid of him, Iggy.
They got to get rid of him, and they should probably get a replacement. So I don't know. They could get Yannick Ngakoue, who's been on a few teams. He's a good player. Or they could re-sign Kerry Hyder, who just gave him 8 sacks last year. Do something like that.
D Ford was a terrible mistake.
Big time mistake and predictable mistake. He had injuries. The Chiefs didn't want him. That's always like it's like the situation right now with the Niners. The Niners really don't want Jimmy Garoppolo. Every team should be like, well, if you don't want him, why would we? You know him. You just spent 4 years with him and you don't want him. Like, we don't know him as well as you do. We see him play, but there must be something between the ears or in the meetings that you just don't like. Well, we take your word for it. The only team that would feel like they know better is the Patriots. So you just take this.
And that was the thing with D Ford. Kansas City didn't want him.
Well, you should. Why do you know more about D Ford than they do? Why would you not take their word for it?
And in fact, history has shown the Niners were dead wrong on him.
And the Chiefs were right. Like, really not surprising. Okay. Final thing. This was really cool. I interviewed Joe Montana last week, and I told you about it after I got it set up. He's now in this fan-controlled football league, which seems to be doing well. It's getting good ratings. They have some NFL players in it. It looks pretty cool. Anyway, he's an investor. He's a chief strategy officer, and he's promoting it. So that company reached out to me and said, do you want to interview Joe Montana? Yeah, absolutely. And my plan was,
Well, wait, I want to stop. You then did the key thing. You said, will it be a one-on-one?
Yes, will it be? I didn't want to do a group thing.
Right. You said, and they said, yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
That was the key assertion that you made.
And of course, I want to ask about football. He wants to talk about his product. I want to ask about the Niners. He wants to talk about fan-controlled football. So I figured I'll ask 10 minutes worth of questions on fan-controlled football, and 5 minutes worth of questions on the 49ers, that should be fair. But I'm not going to tell them beforehand, hey, is it okay if I ask Niner questions? Because what would they say? Yeah, we'd have to see him first.
Right.
I don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So I just, wrapped up my stuff I let him go on and on about his thing, and I was interested, and I asked the questions, and then finally I said, okay, Joe, would it be all right if I asked you a few 49ers questions? And he said, yeah, that should be fine. We have some time. Real easy. And I thought he gave really thoughtful, smart, yet simple answers. Like Steve Young can give you a very smart, thoughtful answer that goes on forever and hits a million different topics. Joe was right, very focused. What do they got to do at quarterback? Well, Jimmy's good when healthy, but he's not healthy enough. So it's time to move on. Not like, let me look at it at 18 different ways. He's not healthy enough. It's time to move on. They should get a young guy. He was very clear. But what he's like, I'd never interviewed him before. I've interviewed Steve Young many times. And it was interesting, Joe, he kind of struck me as like a royal. Like a royal. There's something, he has a quiet tone. He's almost shy, but at the same time, he knows what's expected of him because he's been famous forever. And he's very articulate. He speaks at the right pace. He speaks at the right tone. He's very he didn't talk over himself. He's better than me. I'm from all over the place. So I was very impressed. And he was also, if he had a controversial opinion, he wasn't afraid to say it. Joe, he was like talking to the king. It felt like talking to the king, who was nice, very nice, but also the king.
Okay, I have some questions.
Sure.
Before you got on the phone call, say 5 minutes before, how did you feel? What was your feeling? Were you nervous? Were you excited? You're going to talk to Joe Montana. How did it feel?
I was nervous.
You were nervous.
Yeah.
And why do you think you were nervous?
I was nervous that he would think I was a bad interviewer, that it wouldn't go well, that it would be a bust and it would be my fault, that I wouldn't rise to the occasion. Not that he wouldn't be good.
Were you nervous that he wouldn't be nice to you because you were my son?
No, because I've seen how older athletes who used to not like you think about you now. Jerry Rice was so nice that day, and it surprised me, and I figured he'd be like that. But I gotta say, I started with, hey, Joe, I'm Lowell Cohn's son. And his attitude, what he said at first was, oh, okay. It wasn't like, oh, that's great. It was like, oh, okay. And so I said, he just had back surgery. He says hello. He's working through some things, and he was very compassionate. Oh, well, give Lowell my best. And then at the end of the call, he said, again, tell Lowell that I'm thinking about him and give him my best. So that was
very sweet.
Yeah.
While you were interviewing Joe, were you nervous during the interview to ask questions, to push him, things like that?
Yes, absolutely. I was very, very gentle. Can I please ask you some 49ers questions? Like, I was almost apologizing and he was, hey, man, he's very cool. He was very cool. Hey, man, it's cool.
When you ordinarily interview people, are you nervous like that?
No.
So it was different.
Yeah. Now when I interview the players, like, they're 10 years younger than me. It's different. A lot of them are just getting started. This was like interviewing, not someone that I grew up watching, because he's even before my time. It was like the equivalent of interviewing Willie Mays or Muhammad Ali or one of the 5 greatest athletes ever. And I just didn't want to blow it. I wanted to make it memorable. And he came through so much. He was great. I was very pleased with it.
It's interesting, Iggy, how you can be very aggressive and detached when you interview 49ers. But when it came to Joe Montana, you were blushing. I
was blushing, yes.
You were almost like when that time with Monte Ellis. Tell me with Monte Ellis.
I was 20. I was an intern at my brother's software company, and I was just started the blog with you, and I was trying to get into journalism, and you were like, you know what? Why don't you come to the Warriors with me? They were so nice. They always say yes. And Monte Ellis had just signed his big 5-year extension or something. He hadn't ruined his leg yet on a moped. And we were going there. It was the big Monte day. And they said, hey, not only can you come, Grant, ask a question. And I said, okay.
Raymond Ritter, the head of public relations, said, Grant, ask a question.
And he gave me like a day's notice too. I had the whole night to think about it and the whole day. And I got there and I had nothing. And I sat there. I stood there silently.
Next to him.
Right next to him. You asked a million questions. I remember that. And then we walked away and Raymond was like, what happened? I said, I don't know, man. I just froze. I don't know. So it was at least I didn't freeze. I had a bad experience with Monte and a bad experience with Andrew Luck, but the Joe Montana one, it was good. In retrospect, I probably should have asked him to turn his camera on. I was scared. He just showed up with the camera off and I was like, all right, well, that's Joe Montana's. Okay. Maybe. All right. What am I going to do?
Iggy, I think it's adorable that, you know what, probably if I interviewed someone from my youth, I probably would still be that way. Or if I interviewed Muhammad Ali, who knows? But I want to give my impressions of Joe. When Joe was, starting out and then became the great Joe Montana, he was a young man and I was still a young man as well, although I'm older than him. And I was not the most tactful person, and I was very aggressive. I was a New Yorker, and which you're aggressive to begin with, verbally aggressive. And I wanted to make a splash at the Chronicle, so I was very aggressive. And I think, in retrospect, I was sometimes unfair to Joe and came on too strong. And Joe could stand up for himself, and he's also shy and sensitive. And he didn't like me and didn't trust me. He, for example, was reluctant to talk to me. It didn't matter because, Bill Walsh would talk to me and anybody else, but he was reluctant, and he was reluctant to talk to Ira Miller. But we both noticed, in fairness to Joe, he talked to everybody else. He talked to all the other reporters. So it wasn't a media thing. It was a Lowell and Ira, two guys from New York, two very aggressive guys. But, when we see Joe now, because sometimes you go to dinners or, stuff, or when they had the service when poor Dwight died. Joe and I, Joe came over to me. They had a reception afterward at the Fairmont Hotel, and Joe came over to me and we chatted. I wouldn't say warmly, but it was cordial. We spent time with each other. It was cordial. I know he's that way with Ira as well. And I want to say we've all grown up. And what I feel about Joe now is that he's a lovely grown up. Whenever I see him, I like him. I'm impressed by him. And I'm happy to have known him and chronicled his career.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what my impression of him was or what I was expecting, but I thought he was really generous with his time, really bright, and really articulate. I mean, I'm so used to celebrities who are my age and younger, and they've been celebrities since they were probably in middle school because they're tracked by these websites as potential prodigies. They've been millionaires since they were like 22. Even though Joe Montana is the greatest quarterback of all time, he still didn't have that kind of privileged life of fame and money. And he's still working. He's still trying to make a buck. And it's just interesting. He seemed way more normal than even Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh, that is such an interesting insight.
Yeah,
I understand. Jimmy Garoppolo, in his own mind, is more of a celebrity than Joe Montana is in his mind.
Yes. And talking to me one-on-one would have been weirder, I think, for Jimmy. He doesn't do stuff like that. Joe Montana was talking not only to me, but it was guy after guy. Who knows? He's just trying to promote the FCF. It's like, wow, Joe Montana. Okay, well, great. Let's talk for 15 minutes at 8:30 on a Wednesday morning. It just seemed like, you're the king of the world. Why are you doing this? But he's actually way more down to earth than I expected. Way more down to earth than I expected.
I'm so happy to hear that. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a couple donations. What's that?
Joe, if you're watching this, we gave you an A+.
A+. I hope you gave me just a passing grade. I was trying to impress you. Thank you again for letting me ask about the Niners and ask you about the FCF. Gold-blooded says, sign Kyle Rudolph, good tight end. Offer Houston Kittle 2 firsts and a conditional for Watson. That's fine by me. I was cool to trade Bosa and 2 firsts for Watson. If the Niners can get do that with Kittle, I like that. Why not? Why not? Patrick Moody says, do you think Niners can sign Alden Smith as an edge rusher to replace D Ford? Now that's clever. What do you think, Dad? Can I catch you up on Alden Smith?
No, I know.
Okay.
Iggy, Alden Smith, is he still a very good edge rusher?
He played well last year for the Cowboys.
Here's my impression of Alden Smith, because I've talked to him a few times when he was at the Niners and Raiders. You know, Iggy, he's a very likable man.
Extremely.
That's what people may not know, because they know the troubles he's had. He's very bright. He's very soft-spoken.
Yes.
He's a gentleman.
Yes.
Iggy, you would agree with all of that.
No question.
And it seems that God willing, he's put his problems behind him.
Yes. Yes.
My attitude would be, hell yeah.
Yeah.
If you can get him, hell yeah.
I mean, in the same vein of the Alex Smith signing, it would be a lot like that. I mean, what a great story. Yep.
Great story. And why not bring back these people who were really good 49ers?
Absolutely. I mean, he's 2 years younger than me. He still has a future, and he's cheap, and he has a past here. It would be a great story. They need an edge rusher. Bring him back. I like it. Jonathan Sterling says, sorry to keep bothering you guys. I'll ask this, then leave you alone. What would you do with the Niners' first pick? Go quarterback, cornerback, offensive line, or wide receiver? Seems like they're going quarterback. If there's a quarterback you like, you got to go quarterback, right?
Yeah. Considering, I would say the only other place I would think would be offensive line. But I think you can get offensive linemen in later rounds. So I would say quarterback all the way. You know, Bob McKittrick, he had great offensive lines.
Mm-hmm.
He never had high draft picks, Iggy.
Mm-hmm.
He made those guys. Mm-hmm. And that was Bill's philosophy. We don't need to do that. But he had great offensive lines. Now, I don't know. They don't have anyone at the level right now of Solari, I don't think, to be teaching on that offensive line. But I would say all in for quarterback. You agree?
Yeah, I would say so too. If the Niners can get Kellen Mond in round 1 and that's their guy, get him. Get him. Because they have the 12th pick right now. They may not pick this high again for a few years. Their team is pretty good. And if they could have a competent starting quarterback who stays healthy, they should be winning 8, 9, 10 games. So get the quarterback if you like him. That's it. Those are all the questions we got, unless there's any more. Oh, real quick. Hoover, Alabama. Great to see you, Larry. Say hello to Nick for us.
Nice to see you, Larry.
Hope you're doing all right. Hope to see Nick soon. Thanks for tuning in. You got anything else you want to say, Dad?
Just that, Iggy, it's, you know, I've been through it to hell and back, and it is such a pleasure to be doing these Cohn Zones again with you. I hope soon that I need to lift up my energy level, but I'm working on it, guys and girls. But Iggy, it's a pleasure to do this with you.
Real quick, Camelot says, what was it like to work with Skip Bayless?
Okay, you have to remember that he was on the Mercury, and when he was out here, I was at Santa Rosa. I always found Skip to be extremely polite. He's very bright. Like when I would ask him questions about the Dallas Cowboys, he answered at a level that thrilled me. Mm-hmm. Iggy, he knew people the way I know people.
Okay.
Now, when I see him on TV, but you got to remember, I don't watch ESPN or wherever he's on. I don't watch it much, but I do see him yelling and screaming. It's not how I knew him.
It's a character, right?
Yeah, it's a character. He was soft-spoken. Yeah. The only thing I would say that was odd, and I don't quite understand it. These Bay Area sports football writers and the columnists are convivial. Mm-hmm. And on the road, as you know, Iggy, we often all go out together. Like, for example, Matty Mayoko and I are dear friends. Murph, when he was with us, Ira, dear friends. Eric Branch, you know, we had a once in Kansas City, a wonderful meal together. We'd go out together. Skip never did. So he either didn't care for us or saw himself perhaps above us. I didn't care. I didn't need him. You know what I mean? So I didn't work with him. But as far as a guy who was around and in the press box, I thought he was a good guy. And I'll say one other thing. As a sports columnist, he always had the right topic. He really, I would look at his stuff and I think, I missed the topic today, Skip didn't.
Yeah. Well, he's making $8 million a year screaming on television. So he's an inspiration to sports pontificators everywhere.
Now, I wouldn't want to go and scream like that, Iggy.
No, that's not how we do it.
No, I wouldn't. I don't know how he feels about it, but for my own dignity, I wouldn't want to become like that. So, but God loves Skip and he's making $8 million a year. Good going.
You know, I have one memory of Skip. He was a columnist out here for a couple of years before he went to ESPN and made a fortune. He was the sports columnist at the Merc in San Jose.
With Mark Purdy.
Yeah, and this was before Tim Kawakami was here. Tim was still in LA. The way I remember it was you used to take me to various press conferences, and there was one back when I think Ken Dorsey was the Niners quarterback for like a minute, and it was like he was the starting quarterback next week, and he was going to do a press conference after practice, and you took me, and I just remember standing there, maybe being, I don't know how old I was, thinking, man, Ken Dorsey's really freaking tall. And then looking at Skip Bayless and thinking, man, Skip Bayless is really freaking short. He's like 5'4". That's why I remember him. And then I also remember that he was like extremely buff. He had big arms, like triceps and biceps. He's like, this is a hard-working little man. So I remember being impressed by both Ken Dorsey and Skip Bayless. Like, wow, okay, Kip. Okay, Skip. Someone's got this. Got the yearly pass to 24-hour fitness. Nice. Anyway. Everett Kramer says the exploration of emotional intelligence in journalism in this episode has been splendid, lads. Everett, thank you so much. You're the most generous man in the Bay Area.
I love you. And that little box that you drew for me, I still have it, that shoe box downstairs.
Yeah. Even though you can't go downstairs anymore. Well, one day you'll be
I'm
back.
not allowed to go downstairs yet.
Yeah. Skip is short. I remember he's like 5'4" and tough. I wouldn't mess with him. Anyway, thanks for asking about Skip Bayless. Thanks for listening to us talk about the 49ers and Joe Montana. We'll be back next week, same time, same place. It's the Cohn Zone.
Next week, everybody.